Welcome, community bankers, to ICBA Live. Oh my goodness, I don't even know where to start. The emotion, the sentiment, the community that's gathered here today. Thank you all so much for joining us as we come together, anchored in purpose. You know, when I think about that word purpose, and I put ICBA together with it, what comes to mind first and foremost is our mission: to create and promote an environment where community banks flourish. And so we're gonna have a little bit of fun with a word in that statement today, and it's the word environment. Because I don't have to be the one to tell you, we're living in pretty interesting times these days. An environment that's seemingly shifting every time we turn. So as I said, we're gonna have a little bit of fun. We're gonna get a little bit serious. And as we leave and wrap up our general session tomorrow, I promise you we'll have a few to-do items. The other thing I'm gonna promise you, and I'm gonna ask, we're gonna do things a little bit differently today. Audience participation will be required. Okay, there were a few laughs, a few moans, and a few groans. I get it. Well, I promise you, only 4 lucky individuals are actually gonna have to get up here on stage with me and talk. So the rest of you can breathe a sigh of relief. The rest of you, however, we're gonna have some standing, we're gonna have some engagement on the phone. I wanna have a conversation with this room today, and that's kind of hard to do with, you know, a couple thousand of your closest friends, but we're gonna leverage technology. So, pull out your phones. Yes, I'm asking you to actually pull out the phones. And I'm gonna ask you to scan the QR code on the screen. Or if you don't wanna do that, you can go to slido.com and enter hashtag live2026. You guys are awesome. I see the phones coming up. Thank you for your participation. So we're gonna start really easy today to warm ourselves up. You know, that environment I talked about, we're gonna gauge what the environment is here in this room. So if you could, in 1 or 2 words, describe ICBA Live, what would it be? For me, the words fun, inspiring, family reunion kind of come to mind, but I love what I see popping up here. Energetic, engaging, encouraging, I love that. Educational, informative, connecting. Well, as we're doing here, over the course of my remarks on stage, we're gonna do this a bit in real time. My goal here today is to connect on a different level as we think about that environment in which we're navigating, how we continue to come together as an industry and we chart that course forward. We're gonna hear a bit from the leaders that are helping to navigate this industry. My hope is that you'll be able to take a few anchors back home with you as you think about the challenges facing your institution, your community, and how we continue to thrive and ultimately flourish at the end of the day. And how we, as a community, anchor this industry as a whole. So let's dig into that theme of anchoring here a little bit. As we all know, anchors serve many forms: physical, literal, figurative, as I'm gonna rely on a little bit today. And there's many different types of anchors, and they look and feel differently depending on the situation that we're in. Anchors keep us centered in changing winds, tides, cross currents. And in these times of economic uncertainty, political partisanship that is seemingly surreal in times, technological acceleration that only continues to get faster and faster, and change seemingly everywhere we look, we can begin to get a sense why anchoring is so important and why this concept of anchored in purpose is what keeps us centered in light of all that's going on. So in these times, I think about what anchors me. I go back to purpose, but more importantly, I'm a banker, so I want to look at the numbers, right, and the impact. Well, let's remind ourselves that community banks make over 60% of the small business loans in this country. They fund over 80% of the bank-funded agriculture loans and serve as the only physical presence in 1 in 5 counties. Let me say that a little bit differently. If not for a community bank, 1 in 5 counties in the US would have no local physical presence. That matters, folks. That matters so much. We have folks in the administration right now, like Secretary Bessent, saying it is Main Street's time because of the impact, because of the incredible work that you do. It's because of that we have legislation moving through Congress right now with the title Main Street Capital Access Act that is centered on community banks. It's centered on how we chart that course forward, how we navigate in this environment. And the other thing that anchors me is this room. Okay, remember I said audience participation required? Here we go. Everybody stand up. Thank you. Okay, this room is what anchors me. Look around you, folks. We have community bankers. We have advisors. We have supporters. We have friends. We have family that are helping us navigate through these times. Now, those of you that have been in community banking over 10 years, please stay standing. These little ones need to stay standing. More than 25. In community banking, more than 25 years. I'm still seeing a lot of folks out there. Okay, I'm going to jump it. 50. There's still quite a few out there. I love it. Yes. There's like a solid line out there of folks. Okay, you all do the math. This is decades of experience in the literal experience, but also in the value of mentorship, of guidance, of leadership. That anchors this industry moving forward. Okay, 2 more. All the community bankers in the room, please stand. Again, I love this. Thank you so much. I wasn't quite sure if this would work or not. All right, those of you that come to us from community banks whose charters is more than 25 years old, stay standing. Charters more than 25 years old. Not many people sat down. We have a bank that'll be up on stage here in a little bit that's 3.5 years old. I love it. Okay, charters more than 50 years old. That's our bank. 100? There are over 1,000 banks in ICBA's membership whose charters are over 100 years old. Okay, I'm gonna, yes. Okay, big leap here, 150. Okay, I have to hear it. How many years over here? 155, fantastic. Okay, one more big leap, 200. I know there's at least one in this room because I was at their 200th anniversary, Ashley and Kathleen. Folks, Millbury National Bank celebrated 200 years of serving their community in Massachusetts last year. That is not just a trend. This is an American institution in what we call community banking. So we're just getting a little bit of exercise, I promise, just one more. This one's near and dear. We have a lot of family-owned and generational owned, operated legacies in this room. Those of you that are second-generation community bankers or more, please stand. How about, okay, those that are third generation or more still stand. Fourth or more? Fifth? We've still got folks standing, 6th generation or more. I think I saw the Evans family back there. Is that? Yeah. Folks, community banking is not just a career. It's a calling passed down through generations. Thank you so much for helping us demonstrate what this community is. Okay, now that we know what we've got in the room today, we're going to look forward. Pull out your phones again, please. And if you answer the first question, it should advance to the next one. If not, you can scan the QR code. What is your outlook for community banking over the next 12 months? Some might try and say all of the above. You have to pick just one. This was another one. I wasn't quite sure what the engagement was going to be. But look at this, folks. Over half the room, optimistic. We're going to talk a bit more about that. We're also going to talk a little bit about why the concerns may be. And there's one more question that follows this. What is the greatest challenge you're navigating right now? And I'm sorry, we've bulleted you into just 4 options. You may want to pick all, but you can only choose one. And I know that there's many more out there. Just give us a sense of these 4, what comes to mind most for you? That pace of acceleration in technology, whether we're talking AI, we're talking digitization, there's so much. And these challenges, or dare I say opportunities, is where ICBA finds our anchor and our purpose. Over the course of the last year, and as an evolving practice at ICBA, we have been working and focusing on those strategic initiatives which help and can have the greatest impact helping to move our communities forward. And it ranges on everything from proportionate regulation to continuing to fight those pesky credit unions. And we're going to have some fun with that tomorrow. I can't wait to share what we're doing next there. Next generation, retention, recruitment. How do we keep folks in our community? How do we get the needed skill sets that help us move forward in these changing times? The digitization and innovation of banking, and ensuring that we protect the critical role that community banks play in the payment system. And the list goes on, but I only have a few minutes up here today. So we're gonna dig in a little bit deeper, and this is where I apologize. I'm gonna get a little bit more serious in terms of the topic. Going back to our analogy of navigating in interesting times, that last concept I just mentioned, the digitization of banking, the fact there's a lot of folks out there calling themselves bankers these days, that are not bankers, in my humble opinion. And there feels to me a bit of cross currents that are really coming at us. Dare I say maybe a sense of a hurricane, and thankfully I'm not a weather forecaster, but the theme or the concept is, as I look at this evolving conversation around digital assets, there's a lot unfolding here. Whether it's the Genius Act that passed in Congress last year that created this regulatory framework and legitimacy for payment stablecoins, or it's the debate that's raging right now in Congress around market structure. To use Brian's analogy, it's the creation of the highway in which payment stablecoins will move from one person to another. And key at that debate, and I want to thank you all for your engagement, is whether or not interest and yields can be paid on these stablecoins. So we're talking a payment mechanism. In my mind, when you talk interest and yields, that shifts from payments to deposits. And the study and the data shows us that if we allow interest and yield to be paid, the flow of monies coming out of the banking system will be significant. And why do I get all worked up about that? I get worked up because those deposits leave community. What funds those small business loans? What funds those farms? What creates that next generation of home ownership? How does capital leave the community? Because we know it's not coming back from those entities. So that's one piece of it. Then we have the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency doing some pretty interesting things as it relates to trust charters. They've taken what was created in statute to be a mechanism for fiduciary activity and giving now trust charters to entities like Stripe and Crypto.com. And there's many applicants out there. World Liberty has an application in. And the lines are beginning to blur. Payments, trust, fiduciary, custodia, banking, depository. And there's one more piece in this cross-current that's really got my attention. Just a couple days ago, the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City approved a limited master account for Kraken. That just sounds all kinds of crazy, right? Even if you don't know what any of that means, what's going on in this world. So Kraken is a speedy. It gets even better. Where are my folks from Wyoming over here? State of Wyoming created this interesting thing. I'm using the word interesting a bit much, but it's all very interesting. A special purpose depository institution. The piece that gets my blood pressure up in that is depository. To do custody, to do depository, then we're in banking. All folks, you take all of these cross currents, being led by the crypto industry in the spirit of innovation to strengthen the dollar and ensure our global competitiveness. Well, that all sounds great, but at what cost? The existential question I'm asking myself is, are they trying to replace us? Are they trying to replace the American banking system, which is unique in this world? That, folks, cannot be replaced. What you bring in terms of the impact, the community, the focus, the resilience, the experience, everything that we just saw here a bit ago is not replaceable. We contrast that with what we're seeing, a lack of resilience, proven now a few times over, fraud, uncertainty, consumer confusion. You all are the anchors for small business, for farms, for the economic health of this country. And that is why when we go back to that question, we ask about our outlook for the future, I can honestly say I am incredibly optimistic. Now, are these headwinds fierce? Yes. But are we as an industry, or have we as an industry proven our ability time and time again to respond to challenge, to innovate, to meet our customers' needs, to be there for our communities, not just in the good times when it's easy, but most importantly, in the most challenging times? And that is what we as an organization are leaning into. It's about the advocacy. It's about fighting for what we believe in. It's about how we can continue to innovate and offer the solutions that our consumers may be looking for. It's how we educate and we understand how all of this is unfolding. Because at the end of the day, purpose is our anchor, but it's also our compass, guiding us through some pretty choppy waters. But it prepares us for what comes next. Isn't there a saying out there, that which is hard makes us stronger? I'm going to lean into that. I'm going to lean into that because, folks, community banks are worth fighting for. Your institution, your community, the future legacy, the generations to come, because of what you provide, is what we stand up for. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for engaging in this conversation. Thank you for the purpose and the commitment that you bring to your communities. I am so grateful. Thank you.